In this episode, we will implement Get APIs using Hapi JS. So let's begin. Before we start implementing the Get APIs using Hapi, we already have a project configured with Hapi and NodeMon. This configuration was covered in another episode, the link for which is provided in the description. For implementing these Get APIs, we will be using a JSON file as a data source rather than a database to keep things simple. Let's go ahead and first create the JSON file with the data in it. We'll create a folder called data, within which we'll create a file called products.json. We already have the data in place. We'll just paste it here, and as we can see here, there is a list of products that we have defined here. Next, we'll read the content of this file for this application to have the data available to work with. For that, we'll be using the file system module. We'll then use the read file sync function from this module to read the contents of the file. Next, we'll parse the content of this JSON and convert it into a JavaScript object. We will now implement the first get API, which will be an API which returns a list of all the products. Let's go ahead and implement that. We'll define a route, the method for which will be get, and the path will be products. Next, we'll define a handler function to process this request. This will return a list of the products. Let's verify if this API is working as expected. As we can see here, we are getting a list of all the products that are configured in the products.json file. Next, we will implement a get API which will return a specific product based on the product ID that is passed as a path parameter in the API. We'll define another route for the same. The path parameter can be defined in Hapi between curly braces. Now we will define a handler function to process this API. The first step will be to define a variable which will be the response value for this API. Next, we'll iterate through all the products to find a matching product with the given product ID. We'll check if the ID of the current product matches with the ID provided in the path parameter. The way we can read the path parameter is request.params dot the path parameter value, the path parameter variable name. Once a match is found, we will break out of this loop. Next, we will check if a match was found. If it was found, we'll return the product details. If not, we'll return an empty JSON body with 404 as the status code. For this, we'll be using the response toolkit, which is the second argument to the handler function. Let's check if this API is working as expected. First, we'll try to get the details of the product having an ID of 1. As we see, we are getting the product details for this product. Next, we will try to call this API with an ID which doesn't exist. As we see here, we are getting a status code of 404 and an empty body as the response. If this episode was helpful, please like, share and subscribe so that you remain updated on our future episodes. Thank you.
At Spinsage, we provide digital consultancy services including web and mobile app development. For inquiries, please visit spinsage.com.